Hello, this is Michael David Cobb Bowen, and today I have a speculation that occurred to me. I've been seeing a bunch of articles saying that DEI isn't over or the progressive left has not really stepped back. And this morning, my friend Monica Harris noticed that ABC has announced that Jimmy Kimmel will be restored. And I think a lot of people will just go back to doing their same old thing. Um, in the wake of the murder of Charlie Kirk, we saw a great outpouring and some focus on his wife um, that demonstrated, I think, quite convincingly that Donald Trump is not the moral center of the resurgent right of America. And you could say it's all flyover country, but that's not what I'm thinking about so much as I am thinking about the retrenchment of the participants in the culture war, of which I am kind of a sideline participant. That's oxymoronic, isn't it? Anyway, here's the nut of this argument. So there's an inherent problem with the term diversity because it could mean anything. It's very squishy, and therefore I can't be for or against it because it depends on who you talk to. I'm definitely against the abuse of the term equity, and especially when it means you're going to set a budget, a quota for race, and devote that to the race, the protected class, whatever it's going to be. And of course, I'm all for inclusion and non-discrimination, and that's the law. So the question about diversity is kind of like an Ouroboros. So what is diversity? Diversity is, importantly, where it matters politically and symbolically, is if minorities, whichever way you define minorities, are included in the elite. Now, I like, as I mentioned last week, I like Scott Adams' look at the people who were canceled for bad mouthing the poor murdered victim. That they were so used to being in their intellectual bubble, in their ideological bubble, that they thought it was safe to say these disgusting, disparaging, obnoxious remarks. And they're surprised that they got fired, terminated, canceled, excommunicated. And of course, those are what happens when you have a culture war. And if we didn't have a culture war, then those things wouldn't happen because people are taking external political talking points in a populist democracy and saying this is part of your culture and our culture has to win. So there's a power struggle, and that's why there's a war. And the very probability to have a culture war is dependent on the fact that we have enough intellectual and cultural diversity so that we could pick sides. And so obviously the culture wars are coalitions of various cultures. But generally speaking, it's the elites who are running things. It's the elites who have decided, let's have a culture war. Let's make sure that the biggest newspaper, journalists, websites, in the planet are participating in this. And that's an elite decision. It is not a grassroots decision. Okay? The last grassroots that we had, I would say, would be the Occupy and the Tea Party, who are actually on the same sides of the banking scandal of 2008. But let's talk about the dark secret. Well, it's not a dark secret. It's just not obvious. What's not obvious is that elites promoting diversity are picking the minorities that they believe will give them the most symbolic impact. Okay? We want it to hit different, as they say. And so it remains an ideological bubble because you have to grab those particular minority candidates, which I will now call tokens, from outside of your inner circle. All right? Let's make a fetish of Claudine Gay, the former president of Harvard University. And let's say that their elite was a proper meritorious elite of academics. And they picked this one, Gay, as a token representative of Harvard now, in that kind of anarcho-syndicalist thing where we take it in turns to be a spokesman for the whole organization. And so it would be symbolically resonant for Claudine Gay. Don't know if she was actually gay, but she was certainly black, and she was certainly a female. And so you take this outsider and make them an insider. Okay? And this is an extraordinarily symbolic act that absolutely burnishes your bona fides for saying, see, we're inclusive. We have diversity. Okay? And we're going to follow this person for a while. Okay? You didn't make them chair of the person, well, whatever it is. You take an outsider and make them an insider according to a resonant political cultural war signifier. Okay? This is like Moscow putting their missiles on parade. Say, check out what we got now. Okay? The question is, does this or does this not change the composition, not just the composition, but the direction, the strategy, the impetus, the goals, the desires? What is this organization all about? Are we maintaining a tradition here, or are we breaking from tradition? Okay, so either way, they go from outside the bubble to inside the bubble. And remember, when they were, the people who were inside the bubble decided to do this thing, that was a consensus of the people in the bubble. So let's bring somebody from the outside to the inside. Now, that means whether that person is on the outside or the inside of the bubble, what's inside the bubble doesn't change. Or how much does it change may have everything to do with the fact of bringing an outsider in. So that's what's kind of the Ouroboros. So we're going to decide that we're going to take a token, and we're going to show everybody that we've taken a token, and this token is going to represent the fact that she's a token, right? And so what's that? How does that contribute to the mission? Well, it contributes to the mission if you could say in the top 10 goals of the mission, one of them is the diversity. All right? And that's very easy to do. It's very easy if you're Amazon to say Black Lives Matter and have that as your banner for a month or two. You know, you could do it for Black History Month. You could do it for Gay Pride Month. You could do it for any minority that you decide is going to be your pet, your token, the ones you let from the outside to the inside. But that doesn't materially change what's going on. And if you are anti-race, like me, not anti-racist, I'm not chasing racism around. I think race is a bad idea, a stupid idea, an ineffective idea, and a bad way to categorize people, and I've been saying it for years, then you're really not getting anything. You're really not getting anything if race is meaningless, which I say it is, unless that is to actually signify the fact of the racial identity of a person. In other words, you have to presume that everybody cares as much about race as you do for anything that you do as a token of showing that you have this person of a particular race or gender or, you know, autism or whatever it is that you decide is your pet minority and your pet tokens, your poster boys and girls and them. Uh, and it doesn't matter. The materiality of it doesn't matter. It's the optics. So if you are chosen as a token, your job is to be a signal flag in a culture war. And the aim, of course, is to be more politically popular so you can aggregate people that you think, that you believe, that your worldview says must think like them. Oh, we have a trans person now. So now we get all the trans vote. We get all the trans support. All right? And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. What it works like is football teams. All right? Whether I'm saying football with a U or with a double O, football is one of the most popular sports around the world. And you can put people who are wearing the other colored jersey in your fan section, but you're not converting them. You're not changing them. You're not doing anything. You're just making a symbol or a fetish or a token of the fact that, oh, well, one of them is on our side. But are they really? And if you are hard about it, if you are a hard multiculturalist and you say, we're not aiming for a melting pot, we're aiming for a chopped salad. We don't really expect people to change their stripes. We don't really expect people to blend in. We expect this to be a chunky peanut butter with hard nuts in there that you can't grind down. Okay? And that's how this is tokenism. It's tokenism because you don't expect them to change. And your claim to diversity doesn't matter if they actually conform. And you don't want those people because you expect that their natural, quote unquote, authentic, quote unquote, constituency are still other. Okay? And so the whole value of diversity, the whole value of this tokenism is that if everybody stays other. And all you do is let people inside the bubble and that they signify that, hey, yo, I'm inside the bubble, right? So, I think I've broken that down well. That's all. Ciao. How do you stop this thing? Should wear my glasses.